Once upon a time, in the land of Canaan, there lived a man named Jacob. He had two families, one with his wife Leah and their sons, and another with his wife Rachel and their two sons, Joseph and Benjamin. All the boys grew up and became men except for Joseph, who was still living with his parents. Now, Joseph was his father's favorite. That's because from the time he was born, he had this amazing gift. You see, Joseph had a special coat, a dazzling, multicolored coat that shone like a rainbow. It was so beautiful. One day, Jacob gave Joseph the coat and told him to go see how his brothers were doing. Joseph put it on and twirled around. The more he twirled, the brighter the coat shone. Now, Joseph's older brothers had always felt a little left out because their father loved Joseph more than all the other boys, and they were getting really annoyed with Joseph and his fancy coat. "Look at him," grumbled one brother. "There we are, working hard in the fields all day, and he just struts around in his fancy coat. I bet he only gets to be our father's favorite because of that silly coat," said another. And the more they watched Joseph twirling in his coat, the angrier they got. And then something happened. Joseph stopped twirling and went over to a nearby tree. He pulled out a staff and propped it up against the tree. Then he lay down and closed his eyes. Suddenly, he began to have a dream. Joseph dreamt that he was standing in a field with his family. His father Jacob and all his brothers were bowing down to him. The dream was so real that Joseph could feel his father's hand on his shoulder and smell his mother's perfume. But then he woke up. Joseph sat up and looked around. Was it just a dream? Had he really been bowing down to him? Of course, Joseph didn't know that his brothers had been watching him sleep. They looked at each other and then at Joseph's sleeping form. "Hey, let's get rid of that coat," whispered one brother, sneering. They crept closer to Joseph and tried to pull the coat off him, but it wouldn't budge. Said one brother. "Looks like we'll have to do this the hard way. Come back in the morning, you guys. We'll get him then." So they all went back to their work in the fields, leaving Joseph sleeping peacefully under the tree. In the morning, his brothers came back. They grabbed Joseph and dragged him away from the tree. "What are you doing?" Joseph cried. "Let me go. Stop it, please." But his brothers kept dragging him away. They threw his special coat into a nearby well and left him all alone. "Now, can you help Joseph find his way home?" "Wow, did you do it? Great job. Way to go." Joseph found his way home, but his troubles weren't over yet. Now that he didn't have his special coat, he wasn't as dazzling or shiny as before. But that didn't mean his brothers had learned their lesson. They took Joseph's story about his dream to their father, Jacob, and told him everything they thought he needed to know, except for one small detail, that they had taken his coat and left him alone in the field. Next time, Joseph was having a dream. His brothers were right behind him, listening carefully to what he said. But Joseph didn't realize it. He dreamt that he was in a big, dark prison. There were scary walls all around him and a heavy door with bars shut tightly. No light came through the door, and Joseph couldn't hear anything. It was so dark that he couldn't tell if it was day or night. Suddenly, a key turned in the lock, and the door opened. Two men walked in. One of them was tall and skinny, and the other was short and fat. They both had strange, pointy hats on their heads. "Wake up, Joseph," the tall man said. "It's time to get up." Joseph opened his eyes. Where was he? Why did those men look so strange? What did they want? Now, can you help Joseph solve the mystery in his dream? Wow, did you do it? Great job. Way to go. Joseph figured out that the tall man was actually his father, Jacob, and the short man was himself. But why was Jacob coming to visit him in prison? Jacob was so happy to see Joseph, but he didn't recognize himself. "Why am I in prison?" asked Joseph. "Well, son, that's what your dream means." Jacob said, "You dreamed that I visited you in prison, but you didn't recognize me. That means you're going to need some help." After Jacob left, Joseph was back in his prison. He couldn't wait to tell his brothers all about his dream. Maybe they would finally understand that dreams are not always as they seem. This is the end of part 1. To watch part 2 now, click here. If you liked this story, don't forget to share and like. Subscribe for more fun adventures. See you next time.